We are here today to talk about the 3Fs. And yes, I know what you're wondering. They are, in fact, related to the 5Ds.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health, How to Fast, and How to Eat edition. We're doing double duty this week. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and slightly and highly sarcastic manner. Today, I want to explore and dig into a sneaky 1-2 health punch that could drive dramatic improvements in both your short-term and your long-term health. You guessed it, fasting and fiber. Dietary fiber. And I know right now you're stopping what you're doing and you're going,
wait a tick.
Those are 2 Fs. The hell happened to the third? Well, I needed another F. So since we have like a lot of fun on these, I thought maybe fun could be the third F since it's all encompassing. Fasting and fiber. Still related to the 5Ds though. That was true. And for this particular video, we're not diving into fiber while fasting because that in fact would break your fast. We're going to talk about when you are ready to break it, whether it is a time-restricted feeding protocol, whether it is an intermittent fasting protocol, how a nutritious meal high in dietary fiber may be ideal. We'll also dig into kind of the evolutionary relationship between the two, throw in a couple of GIFs and memes, and we'll be done with it. Excellent. So fasting and fiber are 2 interventions that typically don't get packaged together. And when implemented on their lonesome by themselves, they can move the wellness health needle in pretty substantial ways. But what if you took both of them and mixed them into an all-encompassing health strategy that you applied to your everyday life? I think we may be onto something. But first, some taxonomy. Dietary fiber is a nutrient that is derived from plants that cannot be broken down during digestion. It is most commonly represented in 2 main forms: insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. Both are key for digestion and optimal health. Now, fasting, typically referred to time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, is an eating strategy that places boundaries on one's food consumption over a 24-hour period, which would be time-restricted feeding, or even longer, something like an alternate day fasting or a 5-and-2 protocol, where you eat 5 days, fast 2 days, something like that, which would be considered intermittent fasting. Quick and dirty, any strategy within 24 hours, time-restricted feeding. Any strategy that goes beyond 24 hours, intermittent fasting. Bada bing, bada boom, bam. And I could spend all day talking about fasting. And in fact, in other videos, I have. So if you want to spend some time catching up, watching some videos, I suggest take a look at the Fasting 101 playlist. It is a great place to start. Put it up there, and you'll fill your afternoon. But better that than your stomach. Overfill your stomach. I don't know. So let's talk a little evolution. Fiber, like fasting, has been a critical part of human evolution. Throughout history, the majority of civilizations have leveraged some sort of plant-based energy in their survival strategy. Because quite frankly, 10,000 years ago, grocery stores were non-existent. And guess what this also infers? Our ancestors were most likely going through periods of time where they didn't have access to food. Nutrient deprivation, aka fasting, whether they liked it or not. And I'd bet a pretty penny it was the not. And this right here makes me wonder, which is dangerous. With almost 10,000 years we know of evolving with plant-derived nutrients, what would happen if we tried this crazy experiment where we cut down our plant intake? Say with a population size of 300 million, give or take a few million. No, that is crazy. Totally unrealistic, absurd. But is that what happened? hypothetically, let's say we take a group of 10,000 subjects, born in the US and born a decade apart, starting from the 1930s to year 2000. And we tracked and monitored what these particular subjects consumed in terms of diet and experienced in terms of disease. In this scenario, I would hypothesize that we would see a pretty evident trend and strong correlation between the prevalence of processed foods that was entered into the food system over that period of time and one's overall health. Just saying. That right there is a modern day trend that is potentially plaguing westernized society. And in my opinion, two main factors at play here are the overconsumption of food, shitty food, and the underconsumption of plant-derived nutrients, fiber, dietary fiber. Some promising news here is governments and overseeing bodies are starting to react a little bit. For example, in 2016, the FDA increased the recommended guidelines of dietary fiber from 25 grams to 28 grams. That's good. The only problem is, according to a national health survey conducted by the CDC, most Americans consume less than half the recommended daily value. Yikes. So let's take a look at the connection between the two, as well as some science. These two factors, fiber and fasting, have been along for the evolutionary ride, and most likely went hand in hand in the majority of early civilizations. And in this tiny tick on the evolutionary clock, which was really the last 150 years, we dropped them both. And when we look at the science, these two have some interesting overlaps when researched independently. Unfortunately, I couldn't find too many well-written, conclusive, informative studies that take a look at them both and the interaction between the two. But when looked at independently, there's evidence showing their positive health impacts on things such as diabetes, obesity, balancing blood sugar, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, hypertension, cholesterol levels, microbiota diversity, all things that decrease your overall risk for metabolic disease and increase your longevity. Good things. Fiber keeps us full, it aids digestion, and it feeds 300 trillion of our closest friends, otherwise known as our microbiota. Our gut bugs, our microbes. These little guys feast on all that food that we cannot digest, fermenting on it and releasing beneficial metabolites and short-chain fatty acids that we can then utilize. And we do utilize. It's actually key for us to sustain optimal health. While fasting triggers survival and longevity pathways. It detoxifies our insides at a cellular level. Things such as cellular recycling, like autophagy, DNA protection, offsetting oxidative stress, activating that good fat, that brown adipose tissue, and triggering things such as lipolysis as we dig into those fatty reserves and start leveraging them as a form of energy, otherwise known as ketones. And both fasting and fiber strengthen the immune system and help protect against the ever-prevalent autoimmune diseases that seem to be on an upward trend in the Western world. So why not hedge our bets? Fast with fiber. Not at the same time, but in an overall encompassing strategy. They make each other more tolerable. Fiber fills you up and makes intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding a little easier. And I'm not telling you to go on an alternate day fasting, celery only way of eating for the rest of your life. It would be interesting, but like, do you get like hummus with the celery? It doesn't matter. I'm not telling you to do that. The call to action here is to assess your eating habits, get a good view on what your current eating window is when you start eating and when you finish eating each day, and see if it makes sense with your current health status and your lifestyle to condense that window a little bit and start reaping some of the benefits of a fasting protocol. And in parallel to all this, start adding a little more and a little more and a little more fiber into your life. Dietary fiber, real whole foods, not a little bottle that you get from the drugstore that says fiber on it. Vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts, all a great place to start. And I'll tell you this, it is a marathon. The key is to keep a steady pace and good habits throughout the whole entirety of your life, or from here to the rest of your life, today, right now. The problem with today's world is too many people are falling behind in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and running the risk of tapping out early, or equally as bad, crawling for the last 15 miles. Your lifestyle today and the decisions you make today most certainly have an impact on your physical, mental, and emotional health 10, 20, 30 years down the line. So make sure you're investing in your most valuable asset, you. You can never start too early, and it's most certainly never too late. So go outside. Go find yourself a nice ficus. See you next week.